name's Rachel Torn. Thanks for watching my presentation on my Placement Classroom's Culturally Responsive Library Audit. Here's a real quick explanation of how I collected my data. Since my mentor teacher changes her books out on the shelves with each theme, I decided to pull books from multiple themes so the data would be less influenced by the current theme and show a greater idea of the diversity of books throughout the school year. I mainly decided to do this because the books on display were all Thanksgiving books, which mainly focused on 2 races, and I feel don't best represent the diversity of books my teacher has. When it comes to gender in the books I chose, it was fairly evenly balanced on the halfway point of being male or female. In regards to main characters, there were just a couple more males, and for supporting characters, there were just a couple more females. So overall, fairly equally dispersed. And there were 14 books that contained non-human or anthropomorphic characters. When it came to race, I found that the most common race portrayed as a main character was white, taking up about 3/4 of the books that had people in them. The other races were all represented as main characters in 2 books, except for main characters of Asian descent, as there were none. Native Americans and indigenous characters, I noticed, were only portrayed as main characters in the historical text I viewed. However, when it came to supporting characters, there was much greater diversity. Every race was depicted as a supporting character at least 5 times, with white coming in at the highest of 29, followed closely by black at 28, and the lowest being Asian at 5. 10 of the books I looked at were about Thanksgiving. I noticed while viewing the books that black characters were rarely portrayed as main characters, but were very commonly used as supporting characters. There were a couple of books in which the main characters were a white family that met up with their black friends or invited over their black neighbors for dinner. I would love to see a simple switch of having the main characters be a black family sometime that invited their white friends over. It's such a simple switch to add greater diversity of main characters. I also noticed that Native and Indigenous people were mostly portrayed in historical literature. I would really like to see them portrayed more often in present-day text as well within my classroom. I wanted to real quick highlight the book David Gets in Trouble, because I think that the author/illustrator did a great job of incorporating diversity into his book. While the main character is white, the class picture in the book displays credible diversity in the supporting characters and all on just 1 page. You have varying skin tones, dress, hair colors, styles, glasses, no glasses, eye shape, and more. No 2 students look entirely alike, and I think it was so great I just had to mention it real quick. I didn't have any LGBT characters in the books I viewed, which didn't surprise me because this is definitely a bit of a taboo and abstract topic to talk about with children of this age range. I was excited to find 2 books that included languages other than English. One had Spanish sentences written below each English sentence, and the other had a page where a child was typing on a computer which malfunctioned and started only printing Chinese. I thought that was such a clever and quick way to add a bit of language diversity into the book. None of the books I viewed took place outside the United States. However, 2 books did contain settings within the United States in historical Native regions since they were Thanksgiving books. I was happy to see that 4 of the books I found contained characters with disabilities, one of which was a main character as well. You can see in the picture on the left there is a child in a wheelchair. That photo was actually taken from the book that included Spanish and English as well. Such a great diverse book. And the picture on the right I loved because it showed not only a child in a wheelchair, but how part of their daily routine is different from other students not in a wheelchair, such as how they get onto a bus, which I thought was great. I had one Thanksgiving-themed book that briefly mentioned the Pilgrims immigrating to the United States, so it did touch a bit on immigration and how that occurs. For my student demographics, I had slightly more female than male students, and white was definitely the race majority, although each race did have at least one child representing them. Even though the majority of students are white, I believe it is still important that the class library includes more books with main characters of varying races, so that the students who are Asian, Latin, Native and Indigenous, and Black feel better represented and have more opportunities to read mirroring books rather than just window books.